good evening and welcome back. So the government just can't work fast enough. But after the most recent stabbing in London, they decided, well, okay, obviously people who have been jailed for terror offences are being released too quickly. Therefore, we should keep them in longer. And they said, yes, we will do this as soon as the parliamentary time allows, which obviously is never quick enough. Government always takes longer and costs more than what the private market would be doing. And if you wish to take this onto a dark turn, and why not, then the private solution to this would, of course, having a Second Amendment over here. You would not have another million English girls raped over here if you had the Second Amendment over here, and I do not think you would have a problem with mass immigration from the Third World over here if you had that level of freedom as well. And yes, you can have it akin to America, whereby it's just for the natives who have that right, in which case, even better. You would not have a mass immigration problem of bringing their own culture and not assimilating. And in case you don't believe me, just look into what happened in Texas, where, as a response to the Charlie Hebdo massacre, they went, okay, cool, we're going to have a Jawar Mohammed Quran burning event, and they did, and so aggressive Muslims turned up thinking, hey, they're going against the Holy Scripture, I'm going to take them out. To which Texas, armed to the teeth, said, oh no, you fucking not. Shot him dead, cold blood, very straightforward. Were there any charges pressed? No, of course not, because he was the aggressor, he was taken out. Simple as that. And that cuts them off at the chase. And that is how you actually counter terrorism, because terror makes people fearful, and therefore wants the government to step in, and therefore worried about what will happen in daily life. Whereas if you've got types of people within your society who are brave, quite possibly, or just so sure of their way of life and going, yeah, we're all getting on fine, there isn't a problem. Who the fuck are you to turn up and try and cause trouble? This town isn't big enough for the two of us. Let's sort this out now. That kind of thing, or someone kicks off trying to make a scene, if they're taken out there and then, that's going to send a very strong message to any other terrorist. That it isn't like, oh, divert the police and then you can make some carnage happen. But no. It doesn't matter what you do. We are everywhere. And anytime you try to do something stupid like that, you will be taken out. After all, with the having a Second Amendment in England, it's not as if criminals don't get guns. In fact, gun offences are on the way up. 13,000 in 2015 across England and Wales, according to the BBC. So, all you're doing is stripping the rights from law-abiding citizens in order to protect themselves. And, as we've seen, the way to stop even the bad man with a knife, because they will use anything, is a good man with a gun. And that was the cliche, of course. If you have a bigger gun culture, then of course you've got more competitions, you've got people who are going to be better shooters, and why not skeet as well? Do better in the Olympics. So, this story here, which is a case study, if you will, radicalised chemistry teacher jailed for 6 years in 2015 for planning to join ISIS and commit multiple acts of murder is back on the streets a month early despite being handed an extended sentence. So, Jamshed Javeed, just like pronouncing these in English accents, he is the Jamshed, 30, plotted to travel from Manchester to Syria to join ISIS. Given an extended sentence, but parole board cleared him for mid-term release. Manchester. Officials have now confirmed he's already been released on license. Well, there is the thing, of course, given the radicalisation that happens in prison, and it's one of those fun instances with imprisoning Tommy Robinson. Say, oh yes, we're going to subdue him by imprisoning him. Well, if you think he's such a bad guy and he's like Hitler, then bear in mind Hitler wrote My Struggle, or Mein Kampf, while in prison. That is what perpetuated his movement, because then he seemed like a martyr for the cause. So, if you think Tommy Robinson is that bad, then don't do the same for him. But given that you have, he is now able to say, well, this is what my experience has been like in prison, this is what I've heard from people that I've spoken to in prison, this has caused me to look into it further if it was just my experience or if it's more widespread. And yes, in fact, radical Islam is rife in prisons, because then you join the brotherhoods, the communities, the gangs, because of course you can't get away from the people opposing you, and therefore you have to join for a protection racket, otherwise you're beaten up, you're done for, your life is over. In more ways than one, in more ways than just being in prison. And therefore, they do go that way. And the police and the guards don't look into it because of Islamophobia or even worse, racism. And therefore, they can't do anything about it. So even imprisoning people who are supposedly radical Islamists, that isn't necessarily going to stop them. In fact, I don't think it really is going to stop them at all. It might actually just say, you see, we're persecuted by the evil white man of evil England. Therefore, that's all the more reason to take them out, as if we didn't have enough already. But nonetheless, you've got to take them off the streets one way or another. I mean, I would still say deport them. However, this is Mr. Jamshed. God. Jamshed found himself in a sticky situation. He's originally from Birmingham. He's not, though, is he? I mean, seriously. Does he really look like a Brummie to you? No, quite clearly not. But nonetheless, that's what they're saying. He's from Birmingham, so you can't deport him because he's from Birmingham. So, okay, cool. Well, how about you don't feel like you belong in this country? Where do you want to go? Go to the other country. Do they want to accept you? No. Okay, cool. In that case, it's down to rehabilitation. Just like you would with anyone else who has a all-encompassing damaging ideology, just like addiction, alcoholism, smoking, drug addiction, anything like that. You've got to explain, well, okay, you're missing meaning in your life from helping people around you, and therefore if it's personal, like addiction, then you're trying to numb the pain and you go into that. And it could be a more angry form of acceptance which you've attained, which is dragging down everybody else, in which case you need to go through, well, okay, here's why it isn't good. And if you've got to get to the stem of the problem, then of course you can go down the atheistic route to explain why there is no God. I'm sure we'll rifle some people's feathers, but if it's worth it, at least for Muslims, then you could say, well, your Quran contradicts itself a lot. If you read it matter-of-factly, what it says about Jesus says that, well, then Muhammad shouldn't exist. What it says about Muhammad saying that if he were to not be a prophet of God, then it would feel as if his jugular was cut. And then he says, when he's dying because of poisoned food from a woman's family he killed, it felt as if his jugular was cut, and he kept using that same simile over and over again, just kind of hammering in the point that he was a false prophet. And of course we know the punishment for false prophet in Islam. When in doubt, punishment in Islam, just think death, you're probably going to be right. So, in terms of the prison sentence for this Jamshed, they say a radicalized chemistry teacher who was jailed, so much jam in the mind, jailed for planning to join ISIS and due to be released from prison next month, is already back on the streets. Jamshed was jailed for 6 years in March 2015 for planning to travel from his Manchester home to Syria to join Islamic State. Despite being handed an extended sentence, so instead of 6 was 9, last year parole board officials gave the green light for him to be released halfway through his prison term in March, but officials have now confirmed he has already been let out on licence. So it's earlier, given that it's an extended sentence. Yes indeed. It's supposed to be 9, and if you said we've got to serve half of it before going on licence, okay, cool. Except in this one it was supposed to be 6, and then it was 3 years on licence, so he had to be in there for 6 years. At what point in the parole do you think, it's actually going to be okay? Especially given that we've seen the police, some of the police members are already integrating more into the Muslim rape gangs than they are into upholding the law of the UK. And so when it comes to things like this barbaric, backwards, hateful ideology that has no place to exist anywhere in the world, you're thinking, well, yeah, they're going to side more with them, and therefore they're going to let them out because they're sympathetic to the cause, because the myth of the moderate Muslim is just that, a myth. If you don't believe me, look at how many people think that suicide bombings are sometimes or always justified, how many think that Sharia law should be put in place in the West, how many think that drawing Muhammad should be banned, if not punishable by death. Same for blasphemy, and how many people think that women who have gone through puberty should be covering themselves that's the niqab or the burqa, anything like that. Ridiculous. It is a myth. And at some point you've got to be thinking, well, seeing as we're supposed to have sympathy for the people who are the minorities, well, at what point when we become a minority in our own country do we then get those same privileges? Or do we simply say everybody is equal, so let's stop with those privileges straight away, but they won't accept that? Or do we say, no, actually, the government of a country is supposed to put its own country first. That is the entire point of the nation state. And all the time that we have a country, we are going to put our nation first. And therefore, we're going to put everybody within our country first. And that's it, it's as simple as that. Because surely then if you're trying to encourage the Western varieties people to come here, then you will do, because they know that they're going to have to prove themselves especially well, seeing as they've just come in from afar. So, a simple way of doing this, which people would most certainly agree with, is to say if you're born in this country and you fall ill when you're an infant, so you've only been in the world for a week and you suddenly fall very ill, you're of course going to be entitled to any medication, surgery, healthcare, benefits, privileges, anything like that in order to keep you alive, even though you've only been in England for a week. But if a 25-year-old moves over to England and then tries to get on the NHS within a week, we're going to say no. So in that way, we are putting our nations, our natives, above those from other countries. And it's things that are as simple as that. It seems if you've been going along with it for 18 years, let's say, so you're going through the education system. At that point, if our education system has failed you, then we've made a mistake and we're not going to punish you for our mistake. It's simple as that. For me, it's not a thing of saying, oh, like the minimum wage should be raised. So, well, why, how is it a thing? You can go through government education for 15 years and your time isn't worth more than £5.30 an hour. At that point, they're saying, well, then there's clearly a big problem with the education system instead of with the minimum wage. We need to rectify that, surely. Or if you just say, well, the school should focus on the academic side, and then the family should focus on the personal side, and that's what's lacking. So, getting back on topic, they say Javid was poised to travel to the war-torn state in late 2013, but his family hid his passport in a desperate attempt to thwart his plans. We need to see more of this. This is fantastic for Muslims in the UK, and I would suggest any moderate Muslims should propagate this story far and wide. They should say, hey, here's a guy who we knew was radical, who was extreme. We do not support his take on Islam at all, even though it is the most fundamentalist of all. We think that Islam has moved on since Muhammad. His word is not the perfect word of Islam. Yeah, I know, but let's go with it. And therefore we've reformed, and this is no longer acceptable. And seeing as we found him, and it seems that the police wouldn't do anything about it, we had to take matters into our own hands and stop him from travelling out to join the Islamic State. And so that's what we did. In which case, yes, that'd be perfect, because then you wouldn't have suspicion of thinking, oh, are you harbouring a criminal? If it became more widespread that if people suspect their family member of being a radical Islamist, then they actually try and stop them from acting on it and report them when necessary. Things like that, which would mean we are all in it together, and it's Britain first, not Islam first. So, it also said, seeing as it took to his head that much, despite learning his wife was pregnant, the teacher who taught 11 to 16-year-olds in Bolton persisted with his plan after helping his younger brother make the trip. He was arrested hours before he was set to leave the UK. Well done, finally. Police discovered he had researched prominent figures such as the radical clerics Abu Hamza and Abu Qatada, as well as the jihadi group Jabhat al-Nusra on the internet. Javid insisted he was travelling to support the people of Syria and not join the terror group, and he admitted 2 counts of engaging in contact in preparation of terrorist acts. Judge Michael Polsky QC, when sentencing the 30-year-old, said he was not satisfied that Javid had rejected ISIS's ultimate aims and ruled he posed a danger to the public in the UK and abroad. Which is also a good point. They're not necessarily going to go abroad or stay there, that they are still going to be a problem for your own nation. And simple as me. He was handed an extended sentence of 9 years, 6 of those to be served behind bars with a 3-year license period afterwards. At the time, Judge Dvorsky said, "Whether you believe you are fighting a just cause is irrelevant if the law is clear, this was terrorism. Follow the law while you fight it." That is my motto, what I stick with. So yes, he was supposed to be in for 6 years. Nonetheless, the parole board said his case was concluded in June last year. It's going into 2015. He has since been released. So moving on to, as the government have already said that they wish to stop this from happening, a target of February 27th has been set to rush the bill through Parliament, as police chiefs warned that the threat of terrorism is not diminishing. It is understood that Sunderland shopkeeper Mohammed Zakir Khan is due to be released on February 28th, while around 5 other terrorists are expected to be let out in March unless the new law is enforced, and about 45 more, so about 50 in total this year. And seeing as it's one of those things, I know that everything takes time, but if imprisoning still for several years isn't enough to stop these people acting on their impulses, then maybe you need to rethink your rehabilitation process, seeing as it isn't rehabilitating. You need to then say, okay, either there's a bulletproof ideology and we can't do anything about it, in which case we can't do anything with these people except send them away because they're just enjoying it, they're here, or you say, well, there's a problem with our prisons because we aren't actually rehabilitating people, we're just letting them harbour that grudge for many, many years. So, you tell me what you guys think down below. Always interested to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you so much for the continued support. Always nice to hear from you. And until next time, have a lovely